Hi, everybody. This is Gary Gomes. I'm here with my friend Jean Kirazian. Have I pronounced your last name correctly, Jean?
Yes,
All right,
yes.
all right, all right. All right. So I always like to double check when I'm dealing with people from different countries because if I see something, I just go like automatic Anglo translation. So I just want to make sure I have it right. Uh, Believe it or not, John and I have known each other for quite a few years, which may make you wonder why I have problems with his name, but I have problems with everybody's name. It's not just John's. Okay, so essentially,
Don't worry about it.
yeah. All right, all right, so John and I have been fellow astrologers for a long time. We've known each other since maybe around 2010. I don't know how long.
2005, I think, four or five. I have the
Yeah,
emails.
yeah. You have the email evidence. You have the hard drive file. You can show everybody. All right. Yeah, and I had the I accidentally destroyed my files. No, I actually did destroy my files because we had a house fire like about 2 years ago. So I don't have any of those files left at all. Yeah, okay, but Sean's going to talk today about Kala Chakra dasha, which is a dasha. I haven't spoken about it. I don't think I've ever spoken about it, but it's a really an extraordinarily accurate dasha, which is used in India for predictions. And John's somewhat of an expert on it. And I wanted to introduce, and I'm going to give him some comments on it as well because he uses a different option than I do. That's the adjustment from a tropical to the sidereal zodiac, and we may have a lively interchange about uh, what the prediction means. But okay, so John, you're on the air.
Okay, so from my experience,
Oh, and you can share your screen if you want.
okay. Now, from my experience with the dasha systems, all of them, I have the experience that the nakshatra dasha works best.
Okay.
The sign dashas, I didn't see them to work perfectly. Now, when I always read the Parasara book again and again and again. So in his chapter about the Kala Chakra dasha, he clearly says that the nakshatra system is the best system to predict. And the Vimshottari is one of them. And there are also the conditional dasha systems that he also says that they are good for predicting. But he says that the Kala Chakra dasa system is the supreme, is the best dasha system. So then in the book, it is explained about how to know how the dasha starts. There is a table in the book. It is clearly explained. So there are groups, Apasavya and Savya, and this is very complicated dasha system. Okay, so there are a lot of options here. It's not like the Vimshottari dasha. It's a very complicated. Every nakshatra is divided into 4 parts.
Yep.
So
And the South Indian system is much simpler to calculate than the North Indian system.
yes, the software helps a lot. Now, from what I've seen in the softwares, they are not calculating as it is in the book. But the Jagannatha system has a lot of options. The best of them, I think, is the Dr. Raman's and the Rao and Red. Those two systems, I think they work best. It is
Okay.
like the same as the book is explaining. Now, I think that Kala Chakra dasha has at least two aspects. The first, it's the dasa that is counting from the padas of the nakshatra, as it is explained in the book. The other aspect, I think, is the navamsha aspect, which is like the sign prediction.
Yep.
It is another aspect. Maybe maybe Narasimha Rao, Mr. Narasimha Rao tried to explain about it, but he gave it the most importance. But I think that the nakshatra has the has a lot of strong influences, not the navamsha, in my experience. When I was reading your last article about the USA, I saw the chart and I opened it and tried to look about the dashas and what the USA went through. I saw something very, very interesting. If we open only the Kala Chakra dasha and we look at the Leo dasha, it starts in 1917. It has Gulika in it and Vyatipati. Those are harmful upagrahas. And the Lord is with Mars, Jupiter, Venus, and all of them, they are not in a good sign. The sign is not good for Jupiter. It's not very good for Venus. It's not also very good for the Sun.
Mm-hmm.
It has a strong aspect from Saturn. So if we look at it, we see that the seventh house is about foreign affairs.
Yep.
It's clear that the USA, as a superpower, it has bases everywhere in the world, and it's strong in the foreign affairs. It is a country that dominates a lot in the world.
Yep. Yep.
In that period, in the 1950s,
and of course, if you're a superpower, you're going to have a lot of enemies. You know,
yes,
that makes sense. Sure.
yes. There we have two benefics and two malefics in that house, in the seventh house.
Yep.
So it looks like sometimes the US is trying to do something good to the world, but it's not always translated as good. I mean, sometimes it's in some places in the world it is trying to be helpful, but because there is Mars and Saturn's aspect and the Sun, sometimes it's not giving good results. But what is really interesting that there are two major wars that the US was involved in. In the Kala Chakra dasha, it was very clear at the starting dates. The World War I started in 1914, but the US got engaged directly in this war in 1917. So in the dasha of Leo, in the Kala Chakra dasha, it's clear that there is strong energy and four planets in the seventh house related to Leo related with the Sun in direct conjunction. So it gave this effect to go somewhere beyond the borders and be involved in military actions. Maybe Mars is giving that effect, Mars and the Sun. Now, the second war that the US got involved in, which gives the same with the same sign in the Kala Chakra dasha, the Iraq War in 2003.
Mhm.
Am I correct? It was in 2003, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah, it was.
So
And again, World War II was different from either Iraq or World War One, and the United States entry was because it was attacked. Okay, so the United States was attacked in World War II. It wasn't
yes,
attacked in World War One. It wasn't attacked in Iraq. So go on. I'm sorry.
yes. So yes, you're very correct about this because in the World War One, the U.S. didn't have a direct reason to enter the war, but it eventually did.
Yeah,
And in Iraq too, we all know that the data was false about the reasons that the U.S. Invaded Iraq.
yep,
Uh,
yep, yep.
but this sign, Leo, it seems that whenever it is activated, it is it is forcing the USA to be in a war
Mhm.
because of a lot of reasons. Uh, this is a small observation that I did on the USA chart regarding the Kala Chakra dasha. Now coming to Lebanon, uh, when the dasha was activated around a year ago, I have predicted about it that Lebanon will start losing the powers in the presidencies. In Lebanon, the power is divided into three places. The president of the republic, we have the prime minister, and we have the head of the parliament. This is divided into three places, the powers. Now, there were a lot of reasons. The transit wasn't good. We had a lot of, in the Vimshotari Dasha, there was also malefic effects. But in the Kala Chakra Dasha, there was Gemini active, and Saturn is in it. Saturn was aspecting with Mars on Jupiter. So in the 10th house. So we lost all the powers in the presidency. We have vacuum in the presidency. There is a debate if the government can be formed and take decisions because we have no president. And in the constitution in Lebanon, we have it is written that whenever there is vacuum in the presidency, the parliament is obliged to elect a president and not do other rules or laws.
Sure.
So now we have around a vacuum in those three places. And this was I saw this and spoke about it on the radio and wrote about it on the Facebook. So I think in my own chart and the people that I look for them and clients and friends and family, I have observed that this dasha is a strong, very strong dasha, and it gives accurate result if we observe and evaluate the strength and the signs correctly. We can give correct results, correct predictions.
Yep. I think it's fascinating. If you go back to the U.S. chart, if you look at the Aradas, and that's how I pronounce them. The Arada for the seventh house is in Leo as well, and
Yes.
I use the Aradas extensively, even though James Braha doesn't like them. But I use them extensively because they work for me. So they they like me, I guess. I don't know. But they work for me. They work for me, but I don't use them quite as precisely as some other astrologers do. But I think that that Leo also, I don't know if you're using um are you using Rashi aspects or are you using uh,
Okay.
regular planetary aspects when you
Well,
look at Kala Chakra?
to be completely honest, I also noticed in my experience that the aspect of the grahas are more concrete or more strong than the aspect of the signs. But uh, it doesn't mean that the sign aspects aren't effective. But it just that maybe this is in my own research. I found out that the aspects of the grahas are stronger considering the aspects of the signs.
Well,
But I use the sign aspects. It's not that it doesn't work, it works. But it seems that uh, the effect is stronger with the graha aspect.
just to let you know, K2 is aspecting that ninth house in this
Yes.
chart. In this chart,
You,
K2 yeah,
yeah,
K2 can be a war
sign
producing
in
planet
sign aspect, you mean?
in sign aspect. Yeah, Moon is aspecting. Moon is the sixth lord, is the eighth lord is aspecting the ninth house.
To tell you the truth, Ketu
Yeah,
is aspecting even by graha aspect on the ninth house.
yeah, yeah. So
Uh,
yes, so I think you have. Well, I don't use the special aspects for K2. Uh, but 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 basically even I use them very sparingly. But the eighth lord is also aspecting the ninth house. Moon is aspecting the ninth house.
yes.
So there are a couple of other things that make Leo a little bit of a questionable Mahadasha. Also, I think if you think about the significations of Leo as a planet or as a sign, excuse me, it's the sun. It has to be right. I think
It's a
in the
royal sign.
yeah, it's a Krura planet, Krura, and a lot of folks I've spoken to over the past few weeks have said, "Well, how can the sun be bad?" Well, the sun isn't bad; it just lays down the law. It's essentially it's like Saturn is a destructive planet. Saturn kind of it's its nature. It's glass, it destroys. That's what it does. And it's casting an aspect on that entire cluster of planets, as you rightly said. Saturn in the 10th house, though, is one of the things that makes the US a leader in the world. Without that Saturn in the 10th house, it wouldn't be without a prominent Saturn, nobody's going to be a leader. You're not going to have sufficient determination to command other people. But I think in this particular case, it sort of underscores the fact that number one, you're dealing with a stubborn sign. It's a fixed sign. The sun's a stubborn sign. It has K2 in it. It can be triggered. And K2, when I learned Vedic astrology, K2 was connected with happenstance, with accidents, with catastrophes. It wasn't, oh, you scraped your knee. It was like a it was like a it was like big deal problems. Okay. So I so essentially and and I had German teachers and the German teachers were saying, well, it means happenstance. And so you're translating it into English. Happenstance. Oh, that's a mistake. That's an accident. And they said, no, that's a catastrophe. That's like things blowing up basically. And so it's like earthquakes, natural catastrophes, things like that. So essentially, if you have K2 and the moon, the eighth house, the eighth house of hidden matters, um, coming controlling the ninth house, you're gonna have problems. You're definitely gonna have problems. So essentially, what you can do is you can look at these. You can take what I call a compound aspect approach, and I even use this when I use the Sharadashas. I'll look and see what the house is connected with. The ninth house is the dharma of the chart, and so it'll essentially give the luck of the planet. Essentially in having success in what it or the sign in success in terms of what it's doing. But I also look at aspects, partial aspects, um, and I also look at um, and whether or not there's a significant destructive planet engaged with that sign or the rulers. So yeah,
Yes.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. So this definitely makes sense. Now
Uh,
I'll have to try it with Lahiri to see if it gives me similar results. But yeah, I know I know you do use a different eye now.
yes, I used the Pushya Paksha and Amsha. Before I used to use the Yukteswar or Dr. Raman.
Yep,
It gave quite accurate results to me. I mean, it worked for me.
yep, yep,
Uh, but I just noticed that the Pushya Paksha gave even better results.
yep, yep.
Uh,
And and there was a really excellent Vedic astrologer. I don't know if he's still operating. I can't remember his name. I've been horrible with names. Um, uh, I know I know he was of Chinese ancestry, and that's really the only way I can. But he was Stephen. Well, I can't remember his last name. It's really it'll come to me. I'll post it after. But he used Raman's zodiac, but Mr. Rao thought very highly of him, even though he didn't like the Raman. I know, sure. So go on. I'm sorry, Gene.
uh, I wanted to say something about the signs. Uh, when we are talking about a sign, suppose let's take the sun for instance. Uh, every sign has a basic nature that is a nature that is not that is spoken about, but not under another planet's influence.
Yep.
It's true nature. Suppose that the sun is noble. It wants the truths. It can be stubborn. It can be it cannot be wrong, and whatever you said. But under benefic influences, this sign gets even better. It gets
Yeah. Yeah.
smoother. But under bad influences like Gulika and Ketu's aspect, and the presence with Mars uh, and the aspect of Saturn, maybe I said it, it becomes a harder planet.
Yep.
Uh, uh, Even Vyatipati is there too. So in case I'm speaking about the case of the USA, so the signs, as I have noticed, the signs have their basic nature and the nature that it changes due to the aspects or the presence of grahas or upagrahas in the sign.
Yep. Yep. And I think the idea behind the sun is if you have K2, you have an affliction to the sun. I think that Stephen Kwong was the astrologer I was trying to think of. I just remembered his last name. But but basically, if you have any kind of affliction to the sun, it's going to exert a lot of force. And again, there were there were for the U.S.'s ostensible reason for getting involved in World War One was, I think, it was the sinking of the Lusitania, which was a passenger ship, and the Germans claimed there were armaments on board, and there probably were. Nobody really knows for sure. But that was the trigger. That was the mechanism. So it was weapons. For Iraq, it was weapons which we were told were there, and when they went around looking for them, it was like. And I remember saying this to my wife. I was saying, they're going to be incredibly, I don't like Saddam Hussein, but they're going to be incredibly embarrassed if they can't find any weapons. I, 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 I swear this is the truth. I swear, I wasn't even looking at charts. I just went like, I just had a gut instinct. And, and essentially both wars were started under, I don't want to say false pretenses, but they were more or less manufactured involvements. You know,
Uh, Dr. Gary, perhaps the most country that we have a lot of idea that it may conspire or it is involved in conspiracies in the world is the USA. Maybe the presence of Rahu in the eighth house
yeah,
and the planet Mercury, the Graha Mercury, the seventh and the 10th Lord in the eighth house. I think this is giving this idea about the USA,
oh
especially
yeah,
Rahu.
oh yeah.
Especially,
And keep in mind, there were the United States has a long history. It would be different if the United States had never done anything sneaky. But
uh,
going back to the Maine in the Spanish American War, there were and overthrowing countries' governments in the 50s, 60s, 70s. There's some justification for thinking the United States has done some things that really weren't above board through the years. And it's my country, and I love my country, but that's true. That actually happened.
uh, Dr. Gary, allow me to also elaborate on a subject that it is not only about the wars. Uh, what is giving a conspiracy aura on the US? We have a lot of subjects, not only wars.
Sure.
Like for instance, we remember the Roswell incident
Yeah.
about the UFO.
Yeah.
Uh, that in the first day, the Major Colonel, I think, he said that we caught a UFO, and the next day he was transferred to another place, and everything, the story was changed. Uh, the other one that is very, very interesting is the moon landing.
Yeah.
Uh, I was very surprised that when I was watching about the moon landing, someone asked a NASA scientist that why we are not able to go again to the moon. He said we lost all the data. So it's like now it's been like 50 years for the moon landing, maybe a little bit more. The US is still claiming that it's lost all the data, and they went there, but they are not able to go again there. So this is giving also another aspect of like a spirit of conspiracy. We will always feel it. There is something interesting that last year came about is the release of the information about the UFOs in the
Yeah.
Congress.
Yeah.
They made the meeting with the Pentagon, and they released data of the last 50 years about these informations, and they said that there are informations that they may speak about the presence of unidentified aircrafts in
Yeah.
the space.
Well, I was having a conversation with a student. I don't think he'll mind me relaying the conversation. I just won't mention him by name. But he was wondering why the United States has such a strong proclivity within its borders to believe conspiracy theories. And I gave them some of the background that I just said. And also, I think you're right. I think, the United States was actually founded by a bunch of religious sects. Okay. So essentially the pilgrims came to my part of the country. They were, I live in the Northeast. I was in My family wasn't around until the 1900s, but you know, but but regardless, I come from the Northeast, and um, and the Puritans were um, they were they went to Holland first of all, and the Dutch couldn't stand them. The Dutch were tolerant. They said, "You got to go somewhere else." And they said, "Well, we'll go to we'll go to America. We'll go across the sea." And then you had other places which were found, like Maryland was found by Catholics. Maryland and Virginia were found by Catholics. Pennsylvania was founded by Quakers largely. And then there were like all these split off religious sects that generated like the Mormons and other groups, and the Baptists settled in the South. So you have a very religiously incoherent, I was not incoherent is the wrong word, but religiously fragmented country, and nobody trusts each other. So, for example, for self revelation, and I never joined, but my dad was a Mason, and I told somebody I worked with, who was a Catholic and a very staunch Catholic, that my father was a Mason. I said, "Oh, my father would have worse for your father." And I'm like, really? Why? Oh, the Masons did horrible things. It's just like, it was when I was growing up, it was a businessman's club, you know.
Yes.
But 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 the United States was founded largely by theists, not by Christians. They were founded by it was so the founding fathers were a lot of them were Masons, not all of them, but a lot of them were Masons, and most of them weren't strict adherents to any religion, but they believed in a divine force or a divine will. So they were theists. They believed in a controlling God, and so you have this foundation of mistrust even within the country, and every new group that comes in is viewed with a certain amount of mistrust. So it's a nation of people who so Australia was founded largely by people who were in the criminal justice system in England, and the United States was founded mainly by people who couldn't fit in their own countries. That's a gross overgeneralization. So I'm not saying the United States is made up of misfits. That's not what I'm saying. But they were individuals. They were individualistic. They wanted to get more opportunities. They wanted to get away from get either get away from poor conditions, or get away from oppression, or get away from people trying to dominate them. And I think that's a fertile breeding ground for people saying, "Hey, I don't trust those guys because those guys are blank." Fill in the blank here. So I think that a lot of that built-in suspicion, and it's built into our press. I've said this a lot of times. The Mercury Rahu conjunction gives us a press which is kind of like they fly off the handle at everything, for God's sake. Um, so I think that you have, and I'm not saying we're the only country that does that, God no, but the United States press is more sensationalistic, I think, than a lot of presses around the world. So you have all those things. You have all that eighth house communication going on. So you're absolutely right. I'm agreeing with you in a roundabout way. So it's generally, you're not going to see major powers revealing all their secrets. Like like we don't know a lot of what goes on in Russia or China either, for that matter. You know,
Yes.
so we don't know a lot of what goes on in England. It's not like the United States is unique in that regard. It just seems more obvious, and it just seems a little clumsier than a lot of countries are about it.
Maybe because it is more advanced in some technological aspects,
Yeah.
so it gives a ground to be spoken about more.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Yep. And the educational, it's not that people are undereducated. That's not the idea. And as a matter of fact, I hate that perspective that comes across. It's because people are stupid. No, it's because people are taught to think independently more so in the United States than in a lot of other countries. I don't think it's because they're more stupid. Although, being a geography buff, I'm always astonished at how little uh, people in the United States seem to know about the geography of the world or even their own country. But that's
okay.
yeah,
Uh,
that's another story.
I was going to say something about Ketu in the second house. Maybe
Yeah,
it even strengthens uh, the things that the US speak or doesn't speak, and it makes another shadow of conspiracy about it, because Ketu is a smoky planet.
yeah.
Uh,
And it's really not a believable planet too. But you're right. It does create kind of a
Maybe it lies.
yeah, the appearance of a smoke screen. Yeah. Oh yeah, K2 Mercury in particular is strongly connected with lies. Is strongly connected with making up stories. I've seen a lot of charts with people who have K2 Mercury conjunctions or K2 Mercury aspects, and they're fast. Um, I've even confronted some people and said, "Why did you lie about that when the truth would have been so much simpler and easier to remember?" I don't know. It just came to me. So so the so there's just this. It's great for imagination. It's great for myth building about the United States. So the United States, the Ronald Reagan quote, that shining city on the hill. But it also makes people go like, what are they hiding? Because
Yes.
I can't see everything. You
Yeah,
know.
I remember the story from the World War II, when the US used the two atomic bombs. I don't know if you know this. Uh, uh, they threatened Japan in the third bomb, but they didn't have it. They needed few months to finish it,
Yeah.
and Japan surrendered, thinking that the US has another bombs and many bombs about this. So in a kind of deceit, they made Japan surrender more quickly.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I think. Well, again, after Nagasaki, I think they would have been it would have been silly to risk it to
Yes.
on the part of the Japanese. But yeah, now you said you had some good news for me, or was it just about the U.S. or was it?
About this revelation, but one time I gave a prediction for you about the Kala Chakra dasha, that I saw that there was something active, going to be active in around the year 2021, 2022.
Yeah,
Maybe I think Libra was being active in your chart in the Kala Chakra dasha. So from what I remember, you had Venus in Libra.
yep,
Uh, I think that at that time I saw that you are going to have positive changes, and you are going to fulfill some dreams that you had from a period of time. I think you are in this period that some many good things will start happen faster than
oh great.
they
Well,
used to
I
happen.
I thought you had some good news about the United States for me, but that's even being selfish. That's even better.
About the United States, uh, if you look at the Kala Chakra dasha, you now it's Cancer active since 2008. If we all remember, Obama was the first Black president in this time, and there was something about him that made the people think that there is a conspiracy about Obama.
Yeah, yeah,
The certificate of his birth, if you remember, there
yep,
was a debate in the media about this. If he
yep,
was a true American, he was born in America or not born in America.
yep,
And if you remember about the election that happened a few years ago about Trump, there was also a debate if he won the election or didn't win the election, what happened in this election.
yep,
So in this period, there is a intensification of this conspiracy ideas
yep.
about
It's
many aspects in this country.
Yeah, it sort of coincides with what I have as the Mars, then the Rahu Mahadasha in the United States. In the I use the Shiltri Dasha for the U.S. chart. So so essentially, yes. So we had a Mar in 2014. We had a Rahu story. So that was just so one of the reasons so it's not that often what I have using Lahiri, to be honest with you, because but the Mars Mahadasha started right at the economic, right at the advent of the economic downturn. Mars Mahadashas tend to coincide with economic panics in the United States. That's what I've noticed because Mars tends to be Mars, of all the planets, Mars acts the fastest. That's what I've seen just experientially. If something, so it's like if you think about the nature of Mars,
It explodes.
it explodes and also so Saturn decays. It's like a slow dissolution process, but Mars just destroys instantly. So
Dr. Gary,
yeah,
uh, the sign that Mars rules, they are Aries and Scorpio.
yeah,
So it is the beginning, new beginnings. The first sign is the sign of beginnings, and the eighth sign is the sign of the sudden changes.
yeah,
So Mars is related in some kind of these changes that happens quickly
yeah,
or more often.
yeah.
So this adds a bit about his nature.
Oh yeah, and Rahu is going to give that kind of turmoil that we haven't seen since around 2000. I'm sorry, since around 1775 in the U.S. chart because of where Rahu was placed when the transit started, and and also since around maybe around 1896.
1894.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think all these things I'd be I'd be suspicious of a technique if one technique didn't back up another. So one technique may be more precise, but they but but I've seen overlaps in virtually every Mahadasha system I've used. You know, so
Dr. Gary, may I ask a question
sure,
about the war in Iraq?
yeah.
The Not the second war, not in 2003. The first one, do you remember when it started in 1991?
I can't recall exactly to be honest with you.
Because
I
we have here a sun active in Vimshottari Dasha at 1991. I believe that that was a period of a starting of a war in Iraq between the USA and Iraq.
it could have been Venus Mahadashas also tend to reflect wars in the United States. So you have a Venus Ketu Mahadasha happening around the end of that. But I can't remember. I have to look. Let me just see. Hold on. Just give me 1 second. I can give you the exact time or the exact date. And that was an invasion. That was an invasion of Kuwait that started that. So again, it wasn't a direct involvement of the United States. of First Iraq War. Oh God, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to go in a second. First Iraq War started in August 2nd of 1990.
90,
1990,
19,
August
90.
2nd, 1990.
So
So,
it's kind of very close to the dasha of the
yep,
sun.
yep,
Again, it is like the sun and Leo are involved in they are triggering wars.
yep.
Uh,
It ended in February, so it overlaps with the Mahadasha you have here.
yeah, yes.
Yep.
Yes. Sometimes the dasha can trigger events even before it
Oh
starts.
yeah,
I mean, it can give this effect sometimes.
yeah. Oh, there's one quote that Dr. Dennis Harness may have had many years ago, and actually it was kind of an offhand comment, and that was these lines aren't drawn in the sky. You know, it's not like you leave one area, and then all of a sudden,
Yes.
there's usually a buildup. There's usually a transition period.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, and like I said, this happened. This happened. It was just an offhand comment around lunchtime. You know, it wasn't even in the course of a lecture or anything like that. So I think he was absolutely right. I have to go, but this has been really interesting and really useful. I'm going to put it on my website or my YouTube channel if that's okay with you, John.
I'm going to I'm going to share that too. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
Thank
Very
you for
good.
your time, and it was interesting. I hope this is useful.
Yep. Yep.
Maybe we can do something.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
this gives me something to think about. I've been doing this for 30 years, but I'm always learning, and believe it or not, I do have an open mind. Some people may not think that about me, but I do have an open mind. So, so
we all learn every day. We all learn
oh
every day.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Okay, so thank you very much, John. It's always a pleasure seeing you.
Me
You're
too.
a good friend, and I value you a great deal.
Thank you, Dr. Gary.
All right, thank you. Have a great day, John.
Have a great day.